So the Amazon man came and he just sent me this, a book that I got. And little did I know, Tools of Titans, if you heard of it, by Timmy Ferriss, little did I know that it was a Bible, a freaking Bible. This thing's 700 and something pages. So it looks like I got the 2-in-1 package with a nice little 10-pound dumbbell along with my reading each night. Not a bad way to spend the quarantine. I hope you all are doing well out there. I hope you all are having some fun. Did you know there's a $50,000 to first golf contest in the Draftkings lobby? And if you did tune into this video, you probably did know that. But if you didn't, yes, there is. The Outlaw Tour is going to be having a $50,000 to first. They shot the DM towards Draftkings on Twitter. They got something worked out to help with, I believe, something with the contests. I don't know if it's a sponsorship. I don't know exactly what's happening, but there's also going to be cuts. 43 and ties is going to be the cut rules after round 2. I'm excited to see what the Outlaw Tour can run out there in terms of coverage. They attempted the Periscope last week, had some issues with that, but they did get some rounds out there, so props to them for at least trying that. Wink, wink, PGA, wink, wink, some other tours. We do have a full-size field right now, the biggest one that we've had since I've been tracking this Outlaw Tour, not too directly, but at least congregating some stats over the last couple of weeks and really last month or so, and you have a field of 87 golfers, and yes, about half of them plus the ties will be making it through the cut. And that is right, there is $50,000 to first. Absolutely ridiculous. So the goal of this episode today, this podcast, and really the YouTube video, if you could see the stats over my shoulder, if you're listening on the podcast, I urge you to check out the YouTube channel today, Sal Vetri over there, is one, smash the subscribe button. That's the goal, adding subscribers, right? But the other one is also to just inform you of the key statistics that you're going to be needing. I've been pulling the stats off of the Outlaw Tour site and congregating them into spreadsheets. I believe that I'll probably attempt to have projections up by tomorrow. I've been doing back testing the last couple of rounds on the projections. Might have those up tomorrow. They'll be on Patreon. If you want this sheet though, you can just screenshot the stuff that you're going to see right here. Most of the golfers that are up top, there'll be stats for. The ones where there aren't, those little gray boxes over my head, is because those golfers have not yet played on the Outlaw Tour or just in general. That's what we're going to be going through today. So welcome if you're brand new here. My name is Sal Vetri. I cover fantasy sports in a variety of different areas, and there's a $50K prize pool to first in golf and PGA, where I went to school for the first 2 years in turf grass science major to be a pro PGA person, working on the greens a little bit, got a little bit too tired of that, but let's get into this video. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That helps me out a ton. And let me know in the comments down below, what is the one sport that you're looking forward to returning the most once the quarantines start to get lifted? Let me know that down below. Mine is probably going to be the NBA, if indeed they do come back. So let's just sort this thing out. We have it sorted by, right now, the salaries, which are very, very heavily skewed by the Vegas odds. So if you were to kind of just sort these through and sort this by Vegas odds, you're going to see a very obvious kind of thing happen here, in which you see the number ones there being the most expensive players. Now, if you do sort it by Vegas odds, if you're using the sheet, and I'll try and put this up for free on Patreon, if you are using the sheet, you're going to start to see some numbers be a little bit more skewed than others. Depending on where you're seeing it, you can see the projections for Vegas odds compared to the actual salaries being a little bit different, and that's where you can find value. But it seems that Draftkings is very much so just skewing this based on Vegas odds for the most part. So you're probably not going to find too much value in terms of finding a salary or a different player in the Draftkings pricing compared to the Vegas odds, unless the Vegas odds change before Tuesday's start time, which I don't really know how much they're going to change because I don't know how heavy the betting action is on this. So I would assume most do not change. Pull that up there. With that said, we can just go through some of the stuff here. Top 10 percentage is going to be a little bit skewed based on the fact that if one person plays one contest and they have a one top 10 in there, well, then there you go. They're going to be right now in the top 100%. They're going to have 100 percentile. So what we can do is we can filter this by right now just ranks, and this is money ranks in terms of their winnings, which winnings are heavily skewed based on your top 10s, based on your wins, but also based on your overall finishes on the Outlaw Tour. I'm pretty sure that whoever wins first place or splits first place in this 50K to first contest is going to make way more money, like probably a couple multiples more than the winner of this actual tournament, which is crazy. So you can see that number one right now, $8,200, nice price discount, 73% top 10, is Riley Wheeldon. So if you ask me, do I have any clue who any of these people are? No, I will tell you that I probably do not. And I'm sure many people don't have any clue at all. You're just using data and hoping that you can piece this together more so than other people not using the data. So total birdies is 134. Right now, that's going to rank actually second overall. Now, with the winnings, this could be a little bit skewed as well, because if you're playing like Sunjay Im on the PGA Tour and you're playing every single contest, well, then you can start to rack up the winnings just by playing a lot. But that also shows you that there's some sort of experience there compared to some of these other players. So if we were to look at Riley Wheeldon and just try and go go based off of your rank right now. The total birdies is going to look nice, but yet again, total birdies, if you're just playing more contests, will also look good. If we start to look at some of the percentages, you're going to see a below average player when it comes to the par 3 scoring, a right around average player when it comes to the par 4 scoring up here, and then when it comes to the par 5 scoring, slightly above average. So a player that, although has the most money right now, maybe doesn't look like that great of an option. The price point's decent at 8,200, but nothing really stands out outside of just the pure overwhelming amount of play Riley Wilden has had so far on the tour. It's another player to maybe stay away from. 40-1 odds to win this thing says that, okay, it's an okay play right here, but a lot of people might jump to that based on just the overall rank in general. So let's look at the scoring averages just in general to get a sense for what we will be working with here. And I'll filter this by the lowest because that's obviously the one you want to chase the best. So the two best scoring averages, how much they're scoring per round that they're playing right now, is Nick Mason and Brady Calkins. And they're pretty decently priced and have decent Vegas odds. 16-1 for Nick Mason, 20-1 for Brady Calkins. And you could also see that their final rounds are pretty good as well. I believe that right now, Brady Calkins has the best final round average, which just shows that you can actually, if you're in the lead or if you're at least in the running, you can actually piece together the mental side of it to produce a nice final round. So that's good to look at just Brady Calkins wise. Going to par 5 average, 75% of the time, par 5 average scoring a birdie or better. That's nice to see that 75% of the time number. That is actually top 3. That is the second best number, only behind Caleb Hill, who is the most expensive golfer and the odds on favorite to win this contest. So good to see those numbers on there. If we scroll through to this column right here, this is the par 5 scoring, par 3, par 4, just scoring in general on these. So what you're getting there, these are birdie averages. These are just general scoring, how many strokes it's actually taking on average to complete the hole. Brady Calkins on par 4s is 3.67. 3.67 is the second best behind Nick Mason. This range of these two golfers right here, Nick Mason and Brady Calkins, 9,200 and 9,000, statistically speaking, based on averages and the sample size that we have on them, it's looking like the best bang for your buck value. I'll be interested in seeing what the projections kind of pop out tomorrow, but just based on the high level stats, that's what's right now looking the best. And now this is a player who stands out a ton. I'm assuming that this is just a one sample size or so for Hote Kim. So Hote Kim is only $6,300. So if you're looking for your diamond in the rough 6K player, no top 10s, but I assume that's because there's only been one contest so far in here or two. And I would probably assume it's maybe 2, potentially 1, just 11 total birdies right now, 5.5 birdie average. So there you go. It's been 2 contests so far for Hote Kim. But you're getting a 33.3% par 4 scoring. That's tied for the best with Nick Mason all the way up top. That's pretty interesting to look at. 3.72 is the par 4 scoring on general, 33% of the time securing a birdie on those. And then you can see so far in the small sample that we have, the struggle has really been on the par 3s, just 10% of the time securing a birdie there. By far the best par 3 scorer on this slate right now is Nick Mason. 29.2% of the time, Nick Mason is securing a birdie or better on the par 3s. That is almost 5% higher than anybody else on this slate. So $9,200 Nick Mason, the more that we talk about it, try and dig into these stats, which right now is an overview for not only myself, but hopefully all of you. I think that stands out a good amount. Hopefully we don't get as much chalk on that one. So something that I always like to usually look at, and we don't have the distances for the Outlaw Tour, like there's not a ton of data on it, but at least we have this much data. I usually like to look at the overall opportunities for birdie averages, because at the end of the day, if you can get an idea for a sense of birdie averages and how players are playing, you can get a sense for just in general what their game is coming down to, and kind of boiling it down to one number. So birdie averages, obviously that's something that you want to at least make the cut, and at that point you're going to stand a better chance compared to a lot of other people. So we already talked about Brady Calkins looking decent. Hote Kim has a 5.5 birdie average, right now only $6,300, but 9th in birdie average, actually tied right now for, Hote Kim is actually tied for 5th in birdie average at just 6,300. Again, a very small sample, 500-1 odds to win this thing, so maybe somebody to stay away from, but if you're just trying to find a diamond in the rough to make the cut, it might not be a terrible idea. Nick Mason, yet again, leading in birdie average, 6.33. Nick Mason is leading in pretty much every category, looking like a pretty great option to go towards. Colton Yates is up here at just 8,600, 5.8 birdie average. When you start to look at some other numbers, you see the par 4 average is 29%. That's up there. That's really nice to see. Par 5 average is 4.2. So on average, getting close to a birdie on the par 5s, 65% birdie rate on the par 5s. That's also nice to see. The downsides for Colton Yates is just the sample size, only 29 total birdies, and has had some struggles on the par 3s, which normally for the most part, that shouldn't stay that consistent. So Colton Yates at 8,600 looks okay. As we start to scroll down through this a little bit more, here's a name that stands out, $7,000, 200-1 odds to win this thing. John Tracemeyer here, you can see that right now is $7,000 to win this thing. A final round average of 65.25. I believe that is second best, only behind Brady Calkins right now on the entire slate. But when you start to look through some of the numbers, a lot of things look good. The par 5 average is above average in the top 10 percentile right now at 68.6%. You start to look a little bit more and you start to see that 28% par 4 average and is above average in all of those categories. Things start to add up. So I'm going to be weighting birdie average more so than total birdies. Total birdies, if you just play more rounds on the tour, you're going to look better, although you might not be playing that much better. So birdie average is what I would be weighting. The score average in the final round average as well. Vegas odds to an extent as always. And some of these par 3, par 5, and par 4 scorings. And now eagles you can look at. It's just something fun to look at, but a lot of these are going to be like 3 eagles that you're working with. So Danielle, Mira, Nikki, 0.8 eagles. So this literally might only be like 2 eagles in 3 contests, something like that. And I know that doesn't add up, so it'd have to be 4 eagles in 5 total rounds, right? So it might be a very small sample size here, which when you're dealing with small sample size and eagles in general, it's a skill to an extent. But when you're dealing with these smaller sample sizes, it can be a lot of luck, especially when we're not talking about premier golfers here right now, like Justin Thomas, who's up there in Colin Morikawa on the PGA Tour in eagles averages. We're not comparing it to these players. So I think the players that probably stand out the most right now for me personally, we talked about Brady Calkins, we talked about Nick Mason, those 2 players. And Nick Mason has a really nice price point, in my opinion, at 9,200 based on everything that we're seeing in the statistical analysis, because Nick Mason is only the 8th most expensive golfer and Brady Calkins is the 10th most expensive golfer. So when people are looking down the list, when you factor in Vegas odds, when you factor in the price and all the statistics, you might not actually get to those players because they're just not highly priced. And a lot of people will build their lineups based on the most expensive players. So even if you're leaving money on the table by going to a Nick Mason, by going to a Brady Calkins, I think it's okay. I think $8,600 Colton Yates stood out to us a little bit while we were going through this. I think that Riley Wheeldon stood out maybe in a negative way. You're seeing a lot of nice overall numbers for Riley Wheeldon, but when you look at the averages and the efficiency of Riley Wheeldon, it's not looking that great. So what that tells us is Riley Wheeldon probably has just played a ton on this tour, having the 2nd most total birdies right now, but only a birdie average of 4.47 is actually average to below average. So maybe somebody to stay away from that might actually generate higher ownership, but not actually be that great of a play. When we start to look down a little bit more, and this is what I want to do here, is try and get a gauge on this 7K range. We didn't really talk about it too much, but the 7K range, you're going to find a lot of options in that 9 and 8K range. The 7K range, we can talk about Daniel Mira. Daniel Mira has a 66 final scoring average, and the other thing that does stand out about Daniel Mira is a 4.2 birdie average on par 5s, and then when you get a 4 birdie average on par 4s. So you're getting right around average, just parring those par 4s, but you're getting a lot of birdies on the par 5s. So something that does stand out, but when you look at the average stats, it's just going to be very much like a lot of these other 7K range players and not a lot of good on there. So 7K range almost seems pretty dead. You can go down to some of these other players if you're trying to just look for one thing that stands out, whether it's par 3 and par 5 averages. That's where Tyler Wiewerski would come into play, but not a lot stands out in the 7K range. You're kind of throwing darts at that point. I think the 9K options look really strong. And we kind of looked at the 6K range. Now you start to see the statistics start to run away a little bit. We did touch on John Tracemeyer in the 7K range at 7K flat. You're seeing the 2nd lowest scoring average on the closing day and a 67.1 scoring average overall, not just the final round. Those are good numbers to look at. You're getting a 5.7, I believe, birdie average, which is very strong for this type of a slate. I think that's like top 5 on the slate at just $7,000 with a decent sized sample in here. So at $7,000 flat, 200 to 1 odds to win this thing. No sure thing at all to even make the cut, but at least just statistically, this is all we have to work off of unless you're somebody religiously watching the Outlaw Tour. And if you are, maybe there's a little bit more than usual of those people watching this because of the fact that there's actually videos now on the Outlaw Tour DFS. Well, props to you, and you can leave us some stuff in the comments to help not only me out, but the following as well. So yeah, the 6K range, I'm not going to go down here and try and dig too much. We talked about Ho-Tae Kim. Ho-Tae Kim's numbers just stand out for likely small sample of playing 2 rounds so far, so I don't want to get too immaculated by a 500 to 1 odds favorite to win this thing, or 500 to 1 long shot to win this thing. I think really outside of John Tracemeyer, the 7K range doesn't stand out all that much. We talked about Tyler Wiewerski. Nothing else really stands out. You start to get to the 8 and the 9K range really. Obviously, if you want to go up to Caleb Hill, we talked about some beneficial stats there. The best par 5 scorer percentage-wise on the entire slate. Very good on the birdies for birdie percentage on these par 3s, 2.92 average, and solid all around when it comes to scoring average and final rounds. So I think they're okay. I think that Nick Mason stands out. Brady Calkins probably the most, and then you start to get to the Colton Yates a little bit all the way up top if you wanted to, and then John Tracemeyer at 7K flat. So those are just some players through statistical analysis. We don't have all the stats on half of these guys. Well, not half, maybe like 15% of these guys just because they haven't played yet, or there's just no real stats on them. JJ Spawn, you can see maybe some familiar names on here. But hopefully this video, hopefully it helps you. If it does indeed help you, hit the subscribe button. If you just like looking at the stats, feel free to screenshot them. I'll try and get them up. They're on Patreon right now, but those are only for patrons. I'm going to get the projections up tomorrow, so if you're interested, all that stuff can be found below. Reach out to me on Twitter if you have any questions at Sal Vetri DFS. And yes, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button. I'm going to try and throw a big subscribe button up right now and remind you all to hit it. So thank you so much. My name's Sal. I hope you enjoy the 50K, the first prize pool, real golf, no simulations right now, no whatever. I like this. See you in the next one. Peace out.